All right, we are live, ladies. So, hello, everybody, and welcome to Leadership Uncorked, the confidence conversation. The whole reason why we are doing this platform and this virtual roundtable type discussion is because it's important for us to be able to uncover the challenges that we face in leadership, especially as women leaders in our various industries. So, I wanted to get some really sharp leaders in the room, get them to share some of their perspectives and some of their insights as well, so that we can just all really benefit from conversations like these that usually go on behind closed doors, right? So we're going to go ahead and start off by getting acquainted with our guest here, our other panelists. So we're going to start with Kelly. Go ahead and introduce yourself and who you are and what you do.
Hi, my name is Kelly Duran Jones. I'm an author, coach, speaker, and I help women, a few brave men with self discovery. And we also have a women's group where I facilitate a safe place for women to come virtually and in person. We have an accountability group, we have fun, we have speakers. So we just help one another grow and in different areas in business and personal. So that's who I am and what I
Nice.
do.
And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and Tamika, tell the people who you are and what you do.
All right, so I'm Tamika Motley, a finance coach. I help families get their finances together. Be it college fund savings, retirement. My baby is life insurance. So if you follow me on any social media platform, I'm always talking about the need for life insurance. And then aside from that, I'm a community activist, helping in different realms in the community, fighting for justice. Of course, for my son is the the lead jet right now is something that is really pushing us to, make changes in laws when it comes to correction officers' safety. So that's pretty much what I do.
Awesome, awesome. And for everybody who doesn't know who I am, if you're just tuning in to me for the first time, I am Neshama Alheem. I'm a leadership alignment strategist, and I work with high growth corporate SaaS teams as well as really tech forward and sharp women who are entrepreneurs or in business. And I help them learn how to thrive in high growth, high fast paced environments. So that is why I wanted to get different types of leaders here because I know my perspective in tech. Kelly has her own perspective when it comes to leadership, as well as Tamika from a lot of different aspects. And Kelly, you also are kind of getting into some community work as well, right?
Yes, I am, and it's been really fulfilling. I don't even know how I ended up there, but I know that. I am a person that stutters. It kind of started there, and I realized that there wasn't a lot of talk about that, and there was in my community. There's not a lot of help with that, so I'm an advocate for people not only who stutter, but for people who don't have a voice. So we're doing some things in the
That's
community now.
good.
Awesome, awesome. And I think that is really important to have your perspective to this conversation for that reason, because when it comes to confidence, there are so many different things that could tap at our confidence, whether it is what somebody would call a speech impediment, or whether it is a trauma, or whether it is mental health. We're dealing with Mental Health Awareness Month, May. I just did a panel last night talking about mental wellness, being an entrepreneur, especially women in business. And so it's really important to have these types of conversations and get these various perspectives because we all deal with different things. So,
Yes.
again, like I said, confidence, I notice a lot of times what prohibits a lot of women from moving and making decisions is that hesitation, and not being sure. I see a lot of times where we have to think and rethink, or we need to certify and recertify, or go back to school before we even do that thing and take the leap. What has been your experience with that as far as the work that you do, Tamika? Like, have there been instances where you second guessed yourself too much and now looking back, you feel like I should have jumped the gun sooner because I would be so much further now?
Okay, so let me ask, how open can we be on this panel?
I want you to share what you feel comfortable
So
sharing.
I'm just gonna say, for me in business, the challenge that I've saw a lot of times that kind of affected confidence is I'm a girl's girl. So if you come to me and it's something that I
Mhm.
know, I'm like, hey, look, this is how you do it. Let me show you. Let me, help you get licensed in this area. Let me help you get trained. But what I found in our culture, us sisters, you know,
Mhm.
we when we see someone else thriving and trying to climb up the ranks in areas that we're already successful in, we're not as friendly, we're not as nice or as open to share or say, hey, listen, you might want to try it
Mm,
this way. And I think I wish that would have been something that was I ran across more sisters that were
Mhm.
already doing what I do, because we're not in competition. There's so much money here for all of us
right,
that we don't have to knock another
right.
sister that's already doing it. I
That's
think that we have a challenge, reaching back and helping someone else come up. So for me, that
For sure. I am so glad that you were empowered to even bring that up because that's something that's not talked about enough, especially in
mhm.
leadership spaces, because it's seen as
right.
Yeah.
catty. or it's, but it's a real deal and it affects how we lead, it affects how we show up. What about you, Kelly? Have you had similar
I
experiences?
definitely have all the way up until today. But I'm gonna say that that is the reason why I created our Great Sister circle, because it's so hard to find a safe space where you can be you, you can be open and honest. Like Tamika said, can I be open and honest? Like there's spaces where you can't, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's spaces where we have
Yeah,
to put on this mask that we put on that we're supposed to look like. And then sometimes when you need
right.
help, you need the real face. You need the real
Mm-hmm.
person. So it's important to, when you find that circle or when you find those people, like I found that with you, right, Neshama? So it's just like it's so important that we are examples um of not being the mean girls. Quote quote, not being
Yes,
the
the mean
the
girls.
Yeah.
the catty girls that will, seem to embrace you, and then behind your back is a whole different thing.
Come
So
on.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think like Tamika said, we can go so much further when we work together, and again, that stems from some sort of insecurity, and not realizing that affects the way that you show up, that affects the way that you collaborate. Like there's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go, is it that what it is? If you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go
Mm-hmm.
far, go together
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
you know so it's like it's about what is the end game. Do you really want to accomplish that goal? Well, hey, grab you a team of people that you can count on and that are dependable. And that's one of the things that I've run into as well, like even in school, whether it was like different positions in organizations and stuff like that. And so when it comes to business, it makes it hard for you to want to reach out, or you see now where people thinking that you're going to poach their audiences. Hi Lakeisha, thank you for popping on. So that's another thing that I see. It's like you don't have the freedom to share in certain spaces because it's like, oh, you're going to take my
Right.
people with you. Like, have you experienced that, Kelly? Because I know that's something I don't think that's unique to the coaching space, but I know I see it a lot in the coaching and development
It is
space.
it happens a lot, and I think that as women of color, we need to be sure that we're not that person,
Mm-hmm.
and that we
Yeah,
realize that there's, like Smika said, there's room for us all in that. And the important thing is knowing that it's okay to be you. I don't have to be like the popular coach or the whoever community
right.
person. Be you and be authentic in who you are, and the people that are supposed to be in your circle will come because you're being you. I
Mm-hmm.
think once I learned that,
That
it changed the game for everything. I don't have to do anything that anybody else is doing, and there's room for us all.
Right.
That part. And I see being performative is exhausting. Like that's another job.
It's a whole nother job. I think as women of color, we already have to work 10 times harder than our counterparts. and show up,
Yeah.
10 times sharper. So you got to
Mhm.
look the part. And sometimes you just want to say, look, girl, like this is what we need to do. But
Mhm.
it's sad that, even in our community, we'll go and listen to someone else that may not be as qualified because I don't know if I can say it on here, but I hate this thing when if it's white is right, and we have to fight against
Hmm.
that as women.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
I'm just as qualified, I'm just as knowledgeable. Why is it such a challenge in being heard even in your own community?
Mhm.
That part. And I feel like from the jump, we're always having to overprove, and we don't have to prove as much. And it's not just in spaces that race plays a
Mhm.
factor, it's also like a gender thing that
Mhm.
I've seen, like women having to overly prove that they can do the job, and a man can half ass it and say, "Oh, well, he's still learning. He's still trying to get
Yeah.
it." But a woman, it's like, "Oh, I told y'all she wouldn't qualify for
Yeah.
this."
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm. And
So,
learning not to
um,
dumb down to fit in, because sometimes we
Yeah.
are,
that,
above, or have inform not above, but have the information or have the skill, but we don't show it because we're like, we don't want to outshine somebody. We don't want to, but just learning that it's
listen,
not about that. And if you feel that way, you probably have the wrong people in your circle.
Mm, that's good.
that part, because why is it about
Hmm.
outshining and having to dim your light? And like, it should be about, you should want to illuminate the
Hmm.
next person. Like, that's why I like doing things like this, because I get to feature my smart ass friends. Like, I'm not the only person that knows stuff. These people here know stuff. Their voices are
Hmm.
important. They make an impact. Learn from them too. This is why they're in my
Hmm.
circle. And I think the more that you have like minds in your circle, then you'll realize there is no
Right.
Hmm.
competition. You know what I mean? Because we have the same goals. We think alike. I realize that, like Kelly said, you don't want to make it seem like a I'm up here,
Hmm.
y'all down here thing, but that is low level thinking when it's all
Hmm.
competition and cattiness, because that's not elevated
Yeah.
thinking. Not in
Yeah.
Right.
my opinion,
And it
you
shouldn't
know.
be one-sided.
So,
If you're always the one supporting, that's one-sided. If they're always the one supporting you and you're not supporting them,
right.
like we have to get in the habit of clapping for each other.
Absolutely.
Yes, is you should want each
Yeah.
other to be successful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, again, that's why I try to feature as many smart people in my community that I know, because other people need to hear their voices.
Yeah.
So, going back to the whole thing about shrinking, I know that a lot of times that stems from like a lack of self trust. It kind of stems from self doubt, and you're doubting, like, can I really show up as me fully in this space? So, what are some instances where that self doubt has shown up for you? And either one of you can start first.
Well, I can say there was an instance where I was shadowing someone that was training me in business, and I just natural personality. And you know me, I don't know a stranger,
Yeah.
right? And so, because of my personality, a lot of their teammates were drawn to me or wanting to sit next to me and asking me questions. And it was seen as, a negative. Oh, well, they're, like I'm taking your people. So, in that moment,
Yeah.
I'm just trying not to say as much or not answer any questions or even falling back because I don't want to show up in a competitive way or like I'm trying to, do something to their team or take their, people from them. And I don't like feeling like that because I want to show up and be authentic. I want to be who I am. I want to, my personality and a lot of times have gotten me through doors. For
Yes.
some people, they see that as a negative. So a lot of times you're having to kind of dim your light or withdraw or not say as much, and that just doesn't feel good. Having to dumb down who you are. Yeah.
It doesn't. It doesn't. And it doesn't serve
No,
you. You
not
know
at
what I
all.
mean? It's like, I posted something similar, like, we hide in the shadows, but then if you're in the shadows,
Right.
nobody sees
Hmm.
you. So if nobody sees you, then How do they know this is the right expert? This is the person I can hire. She knows what she's talking about if we can't see
Right.
you, you know?
Very true. Very
What about
true.
you, Kelly? Go ahead and talk about instances where self doubt may have crept
I
up to
think
you.
self doubt creeps up when I'm feeling overbooked or underprepared because I like to prepare. You want to make sure that you've done all the background work that you can do, right? So when I'm doing a bunch of different things and I have to jump in somewhere and I feel like I haven't had that time to prepare. For so many years with my speech impediment, I hid myself. So when I started speaking, people were like, "Well, where's the Kelly that we knew?" But really, this is Kelly. So I hid myself a lot. So now self doubt creeps in if I over prepare or under prepare because you could do both, right?
Hmm.
For example, I had to do a speaking engagement at a church, and it was at a women's conference, and I was looking at all the other previous speakers and all the things and how they all were kind of the same. They were very spiritual, and I don't want to use the word churchy, but churchy. So I
Yeah.
was like, well, that's not me. So I'm gonna just come in and do me. But walking in the space, I was like, uh oh, I don't know how they're gonna receive me. But they asked me to come here. So when I showed up as me, um, and just did what I do, it was it turned out really good. But so the point is sometimes you can overthink things and
Hmm.
take yourself out of who you really are because you're trying to fit
Right. Oh
into
my gosh.
something. And when you show up, you need to show up in the room just that because there's somebody there that needs you. That's why you're there. They
Mm.
don't need the flow of all the other people.
Right.
So it was amazing how afterwards I had so many people coming to me like, I need your help or I need some guidance. But it wasn't about the church, it was about womanhood and just being
Yeah.
authentic and showing up as yourself. And people see that. So
Yeah.
I think sometimes my self doubt comes from, can I be me in this space? And then when I show up, I'm like, well, yeah, I can. So just
Right.
that muscle of just be you
Yeah.
all the time, right?
Yes.
Because
For
if they
sure.
ask you there, they there's a
There's a
audience for you
reason.
there.
Yes,
Yeah,
there's a reason.
yeah.
Exactly. I feel you on that because there are times where you walk into the situation comfortable. Like I'm that way. I'm going to observe the situation first and feel
Mhm,
it out
mhm.
and decide how much of me I'm gonna give y'all. Not that I'm
Mm.
not gonna give y'all me, but I'm decide how much of me you can have.
Right.
Right.
And there have been situations where I feel like, oh, they can't handle it. But it was uncomfortable. It was
Yes.
so uncomfortable. And when you're hiding yourself, even if you think you're protecting yourself, it comes off as being inauthentic. I felt
Mhm,
like me having to edit myself and pull back. I felt like then I was coming off as fake and then people looking at me fake. I tend to overthink because I'm always thinking 50 steps ahead, like
mhm,
just as a logical person, as a person who likes to prepare, as a person
mhm.
who plans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So and as a person whose thoughts run like that, all of those 50 thoughts can happen in the span of a second. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying?
Yes.
So those are the times where self doubt can kind of creep in for me is that overthinking piece because sometimes we're harping on things that nobody even said to you. You're just
Yeah.
thinking of possible scenarios. Who said that's even a possible scenario?
Right.
Like, has that even really happened to you yet? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yes.
Like, you know? So,
I think too, as women, we tend to do that a lot, even in just in business in general, because we're thinking of so many things like, how is this going to impact my family, or am I able
Mhm.
to do it, or what if this happened? And we put ourselves in this fear conundrum of things that hasn't even happened.
right,
Mhm.
Right. So
right.
Mhm.
we're like worried about
Mhm.
50 million things that has not happened. Like,
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
we just get
Yeah.
to step A? And then we'll worry
Yes.
about
Mhm.
step B. But as women, especially mothers, we're like the managers of the house. So you have to kind of think about all of these different scenarios. And it just follows us, even in business. We just start worrying about
Yeah.
everything. And a lot of times when I'm mentoring people, I'm like, hey, whatever you're worried about, just push past it. We'll
Yeah.
worry
Mhm.
about it if it
Mhm.
happens. But most time it don't even happen. We just
Nope.
make stories up in our head, and it's really just self doubt that's
Exactly.
designed just to slow us down.
Yeah.
because that's all it does. It just slows us down in business.
Yeah.
You
It's
said
a
something that
distraction. Yeah.
You said something that stood out to me about, especially as mothers, and I got to thinking when I first had my first child, that diaper bag was so big and full of stuff because I was preparing for every possible scenario. She
Yep.
had several changes of clothes in there. There may have been more than one pair of shoes. There's some disinfectant wipes. There's actual spray. Like, so I feel like we take that mentality into everything of we have to prepare for every possible scenario,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
sometimes you don't have to really do that. Like you said, we're preparing for plan A and B or XYZ and they even got to B yet. And we're
Right.
already planning for X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So
Right.
Hmm.
that's very interesting to me. Did you have a perspective on that, Kelly, as far as like how mothering shows up in your business and how you tend to prepare?
Yes, for me, so I only had one child. So I tend to, she's 30, and I still tend to think like, what if, what if,
Yeah.
what if? So I'm still giving her, what ifs, and she's like, no.
Yeah.
But I know that as she was growing up, like you said, you have all these thoughts and things that you want to go this way. And then when they shift, you're like, whoa, what do I do now? But we've already prepared for it, just like we do in business.
Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
We show up in the space prepared, but still in the back of your mind, you're saying, what is? So I've learned to just kind of shut that part of my brain down
Hmm.
and just
Yeah.
go
Because
with the
you'll
flow.
tend to over prepare. Like you said before, over preparedness is not
Yeah.
is the
I
same
call
on
it
as being underprepared.
always getting ready, but never ready. You're ready. You're
Yes.
prepared. Like, you're
Getting
ready.
ready to get
Still
ready.
getting ready.
So, when you have those moments of self doubt, what is one of the things or what's a strategy that you can draw on to help you feel more confident? Because, like I tell people, I don't feel like confidence is something that you're born with, it's not a
Mhm.
personality trait. It's
Hmm.
definitely something that you can learn. It's a
Hmm.
habit, and
Mhm.
you have to flex that muscle. So, what are some of the things that you draw on to flex that muscle for yourself, especially in high pressure situations?
Well, I'll say one of the biggest things for me is choosing progress over perfection. Like, you're trying to make it so perfect that you're thinking, 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 got all, like you said, the big old bag of stuff, and because you're trying to make it perfect, right? You want everything to go just the way you want it to go, but you've done the work, um, you've made the plans, you're in the space. Just allow it to flow.
Yeah.
So I've learned to also delegate the things that I don't need to have in my mind so that somebody else is taking care of that. Someone else is doing the photos. Somebody else is taking the notes. Somebody else is checking the email while I'm live or, whatever it is.
Hmm.
So like to release the things that I need to release so that I'm, just working on the actual work, not trying to make it perfect because I have to keep telling myself because it was really important of how people saw me. And I
Hmm.
had to realize that it's not what they see in me, it's who I actually am. And
Hmm.
Yes.
I am imperfectly perfect. I tell myself that all the time. So whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. And if I need to learn a lesson in it, it's going to be a lesson. And it's okay.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
it.
I love that too. That's awesome.
Yeah. Lakeisha says delegation is the key. I heard a
Yeah.
lady give a speech last week, and it was 3 Ds. I can't remember what that third one was, but she was like, it's either this, or I delegate it, or I delete it. I was like, I cannot
I
remember
love
what
it.
that third D was, but she was like, it goes into one of them three categories. It's this D,
Hmm.
this D, or this D. So, yeah,
Hmm.
delegation is everything. What about you, Tamika? What are some of those things that you draw on so that you can have that confidence in those moments that you have that self doubt, especially when you're dealing with high pressure situations? Because I know with not only just the business that you work with, because in insurance you deal with grieving families, you
Hmm.
know, you're dealing with training a team and other people to do what you do, but you also mentioned all the activism work that you do, all of which are high pressure situations. So
Yes.
you kind of have to show up a certain way. You
Mm-hmm.
can't show up weak. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, what is it that you do to kind of draw on that and build that muscle of self confidence in those moments?
So there's a book I read. I was over here looking at my bookshelf. It's called Eat That Frog, and it's by Brian Tracy.
I saw you
Mm-hmm.
post that before.
That book changed my life. So I'm like you know, I have to prepare. So the night before, I'm already planning out what I need to do the next day. So whatever that task is that's the most difficult or something daunting that I just really don't want to do, is something I dread, I do that first.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my mind, if I get that done, then everything else is easy. So I
Mm.
kind of, you know, in the book, it talks about, you know, you want to do the most daunting task first, get that over with. And then the rest of your day, I'm just like, whew, okay, that's over with. What's next? So whatever it is that I'm just dreading, first of the morning, let's go ahead and get it over with. And that
Mm-hmm.
way, now I can just kind of relax my mind, and everything else I can kind of coast through the other tasks. So if it's hard, it's difficult, guaranteed I'm gonna get it done before 10 o'clock, because I don't even want it on my mind the rest of the day.
That makes sense because the longer you put it off, it's still there.
It's still there. You
It's
still
still
have
there.
to do it. You like
And you
you
And
still
have
gonna
you're
be worried
still
about it.
thinking about
still
it. You're still
have
thinking
to
about it.
do it. And when I'm coaching my team, they're like, "Well, what? How do I need? You ain't did this. Like, get that done, get it over with, because it's still got. If you drag it out, days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, you still ain't getting it done. So
Yeah,
just knock it out, get it off your list, and let's move on to the rest of the stuff."
for sure, for sure. I
That's
love
good.
that. That
That's
makes. I'm gonna have to add that to my list because y'all know
Girl,
I read a lot of books.
yeah. And it's a little thin, it's a quick little easy read. And the title alone, Eat That Frog. Like, if you gotta eat a frog, like, just get it over with.
Yes, that part. That part. Well, I thank y'all so much for being here today to share your insights because, like I said, it was important to get various perspectives because you can get a bunch of, insurance agents in the room, community leaders, a bunch of coaches, but when you have people across different experiences, across different industries, different walks of life, um, you get different stories that somebody may be able to connect with. There may be able to be some sort of common thread. Um, so going back to some of the work that I do. So, like I said, I'm in leadership alignment, which is why I thought it was so important to have other leaders on here who kind of share some of those same values. I see y'all doing the inner work. And like I said, it's not a personality trait, it's something that we actively work on, right? And
Mhm.
so that's why I wanted to invite people into the conversation and get a little taste of some of the things that we all do, and learning what alignment looks like. And so, speaking of alignment, what would you say leadership alignment looks like to you? And either one of you can go first. Or do I need to call the name now? Because they like, I'm gonna let her go. I'm gonna let her go. I see y'all both looking at each other like, she
Well,
can go.
I'll go. So what does leadership alignment look like for me? Um, at the beginning of this year, I said I was going to let my yes be yes and my no be no. So, saying yes to the things that are in alignment with what I know my purpose is right now, because over the last few years we've learned you got to pivot when life happens, right?
Yes,
But
yes,
in saying no, being okay with my no and letting that be the whole sentence.
Come on now.
So that's
because
what it
no is
looks.
a complete sentence.
It's a complete sentence. Nothing
And
comes
I
before it or after it.
No, and I can say it with a smile, and people get confused. Like, is she like, what's happening? She's
Does she
happy to
really
say
mean
no.
that?
Yes, I am, and yes, I do. So I think
That
that's
part.
it for me.
So I definitely want to echo what you said. It's about, that making your yes and your no. Leadership
Mhm,
alignment for me in this season of my life is just being authentic.
mhm,
I was one that I didn't like to tell people no. I could, if I didn't know the answer, I'll go search it, or I felt the
mhm,
need to overextend myself. So now it's just being authentic. If I can't do it, being honest enough to say that I cannot, or
Yeah.
I don't have the capacity, right? I may have the desire. My heart may say yes, but my schedule is a hard
Yes.
no. And
Yeah.
just being honest. And I think people appreciate your honesty and saying, because I don't like saying that I'm going to do something and I can't do it or I half-ass.
Mm.
Yeah.
So just being honest enough to just say, in this season of my life, I'm just not able to do that. Now, if I can help in another capacity, give
Yeah.
me something behind the scene, I can do that. So just being
Mhm.
honest with people and just letting them know where you are, because in Neshama, I wear many hats and people call me
Yeah.
for a lot of things. But just in this season, I have to stay focused on the task that I have in front of me today.
For sure.
Now, six
Mhm.
months from now, I may be able to move and do some different things. So alignment for me is just being honest about what's on my plate
Yeah.
and being able to handle what I have on my plate today.
Yes. Lakeisha
It-
says capacity is a real thing and we have to honor that. And
Yes.
that's
Mhm.
so true. And when you have that honesty within yourself, then you can be honest with other people. Like before we started this stream, we were talking about people not just saying, giving you an answer. You know what I mean? Like the answer can be no, but just say something. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And it's
Yeah.
like if you can be that real internally, then it helps you be that real with other people, you know?
Yes.
And so, what both of y'all, and this ties back into the whole theme of confidence because one of the tenets in my lead model, the D stands for decision confidence. And y'all have shown that y'all can stand firm on decisions. When it comes to, I'm not doing that, this is my no, you know.
Mhm.
So, what tips can some people walk away with that you can offer to have more decision confidence and to because I know a lot of times we don't want to hurt feelings or sometimes it depends on who's doing the asking, that we may bend a little
Mhm.
bit. So what kind of insight or what kind of thought can you give when it comes to being firm to make the decision in the first place and then being confident to stand on that decision? And
I was I would say knowing that you don't have to be everything for everybody.
mm,
Mhm.
Knowing that if you say no, they'll go find somebody that'll help. They'll go find
They
somebody else,
do.
or they will figure it out.
yep,
That for me was a very valuable lesson, that I didn't have to always have the answer. I didn't have to always be the one to run to everybody's beck and call. Because truth be told, when you need your task done, 9 times out of 10, you're doing it by yourself.
Yes.
So it's
Absolutely.
okay to let them go and ask somebody else or direct them to somebody else. Hey, you
yeah,
know what? This person is qualified in this area. Reach out to her. Being able to delegate and say,
yes.
listen, I can't do it, but I know someone that can, and be okay with that.
We back to
Yeah.
that delegation.
Come on.
That's very important.
The delegation is the key to decision
That's
confidence,
it.
Yes,
y'all. You
it
heard it
is.
here.
Mhm.
It is. For me, it is setting boundaries for yourself, person. So I have my personal boundaries and then I have my business boundaries.
Yeah,
Now, I used to also try to stretch myself, like, oh, let me help them. And then I'm struggling to do my own stuff, like you said, by myself.
Mhm.
But so the boundaries that I have is my morning time with myself. That's personal and business. Because if you don't start your day off right, the whole day is just up and down and, a whole different pace. So setting boundaries with my day, with my time, with my mental health. If it's a day that I'm overwhelmed, I know how to pull back. After a big event, I've learned to schedule time to rest after doing a busy week, big day, whatever it is. Because if you don't take care of yourself, then you can't even help anybody else. So
yeah.
setting boundaries for me is the key in all the areas.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
like that. I like
Mhm.
that. And we may have to do a whole discussion about boundaries. I may have to
Yes,
bring
very
Lakeisha on for
important.
that one.
Listen,
Yeah,
boundaries with family. Let's talk about it.
Woo, baby.
Ooh, let's talk about that.
Listen, that may be a good one to talk about at the in-person experience. Because this is
Mhm.
one of the things that I want to bring as an in-person experience. Leadership Uncorked is really near and dear to me. Y'all know I'm a wine girly, so that's why Uncorked is in the name. But
Mhm.
being uncorked and uncorking your leadership, uncorking these conversations is just blowing the top off that thing and being really candid. So that may be one of the things that we talk about at the first in-person experience in June is how that all plays into your family and business when it comes to boundaries and boundary setting.
Yeah. So did you say we were gonna have wine at this event?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Okay. Yeah,
You
I'm there.
coming, girl? You coming?
We're gonna need a whole bottle to discuss it.
Listen, I'm gonna have to get Lakeisha out the house for that one too, because she's like, family will stretch your boundaries.
Oh
Okay,
my
won't
God,
they?
Oh, yes.
today.
Won't they? Because they feel like you won't say no, and when you say no, it's like, why? How dare you say no
It's like
to?
a cuss
Yeah.
word. Like what?
And it might be because you haven't said no, and now
Mhm.
you're saying no. So they're like in shock, like a
Yeah.
kid,
Listen,
like,
I'm singing it now. It's like no, 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 no.
Okay, no, 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 like whining.
It's a perfect
No.
song. It's a perfect song.
it is. And it brings peace and harmony to your life.
Yes, indeed.
Woo! Yes, Lord.
When you can hang
Yes.
up and not think about the no any longer, you know you have grown.
Oh
And you
my
can
goodness.
just be like, I
Yes.
said no, and I ain't thinking about it. Because sometimes we like no, and then later you're like, I should have tried. I should have, would have, could have. Nope, just no.
I
Mm-mm.
set a boundary this weekend, and the next day I shocked myself. I mean, I went out. I went off. Woke up the next morning. I was like, "Am I sad? I'm not really sad. I don't really care." Like then I
That's
said, "You
that
know what?
Freedom.
elevation.
Freedom. Yes.
Free was so free."
I
Yes.
call them my non-negotiable. Some things is just non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
And it's okay. And it's still love. So if
okay,
I tell you
it's
no and
okay.
I see you, it's still love. Because it's not,
Right.
Yeah,
it's
Because it's
okay.
not a malice behind the no. It's just that
yeah,
I'm prioritizing my wellness, my well being, because at the end of the day, if I'm not showing up well for me, I can't show up well for anybody else.
Right.
no,
you know
Right.
I heard somebody say, and I've enacted that whole thing, there's like, you can't pour from an empty cup. Well, you shouldn't be pouring from your cup anyway. Your cup is for you. You
Yeah.
should be
yeah.
giving from your overflow.
Come
And
on.
if you
Overflow.
don't have any overflow because you're not filling yourself up, then everybody else got to wait.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
a
now
whole nother
add
talk.
that to the list of the topics that we're going to discuss in
That's
June.
the next topic.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me feel this sausage right here.
And y'all know this is all related to confidence because, like I said,
Mhm.
it starts with your mindset because your mindset affects how you show up. So if you don't start uncovering these small things that affect the way that you show up and how you think about yourself in situations, it's definitely going to take a hit to your confidence,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So,
Oftentimes we try to start with other people. Start with you.
yes,
Start with
that
that
part,
stuff you need to get rid of and be okay with your no and your yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
that
Mm-hmm.
then
part.
you can easily, start spreading the love of no to everybody. The
Right.
gift of goodbye, I call it.
Yes, the
Right.
gift of goodbye. Yes,
Right.
indeed.
Right.
I want to see if we have any questions from the audience. I'm gonna give it a couple seconds because sometimes there's a little bit of a delay when we're using these different softwares to stream. So, but yeah, Lakeisha says she will come to the in-person thing. Girl, I would love to have you come to
Why?
the in-person thing.
Come on.
Listen, because it's about to go down. And for anybody else who's watching, if you're looking to come to that Leadership Uncorked in-person experience or even the next virtual one, just go to neshamaalheem.com/events. That'll tell you everything that I have coming up, all the speaking things I have coming up, events that I'm hosting, other people's events that I'm part of. I'll be a part of Lakeisha's My Mind is My Business mental health conference next weekend. We did an amazing panel last night talking about surviving, from surviving to thriving. We're going to go deeper into that next weekend at the conference.
Mhm.
So if y'all missed that interview last night, it's still on my Instagram page. Y'all check that out. Um, So yeah, I don't see any questions in the audience, but I know we got people here. Hey y'all, I'm glad y'all here. Y'all don't have to talk. So I want to give y'all an opportunity to share some final thoughts. Anything you want to share, your final perspective on this confidence conversation, and then let the people know what you have going on, what you're up to, and where they can find you.
So I would say one of the things that was just spoke about was, having the gift of goodbye or saying no. I think that we first have to address what's inside of us that we feel the need to always say yes, that we feel that we always have to overextend. There's
Mm-hmm.
something underlining in us that we feel that we can't say no, that we can't be confident in saying no. And when we start to unpack that, is when we'll start to find the freedom, and to really thrive in business, because any successful business person, they don't walk around saying yes all the time. They
So
know their
true.
schedule, they know what they can do, they know what they can't,
Yep.
and they're okay with saying no. So the confidence that it takes means that you've searched and did some work inside yourself and uprooted those negative thoughts that you feel that you have to be someone's doormat in order to be accepted, or to get into a room you got to do things that you don't want to do, or show up in ways that is not comfortable or authentic to you.
Yeah.
And that's the work. So I appreciate that you guys are having that mental healing, because there's a lot of past trauma that
Yeah.
has been placed on us from childhood that we just can't tell people, no, that's not so.
Yeah.
So I feel free in walking into my authentic self. There's a lot of things that has happened over the years that have just really made me sit down and take a look at who I am as a leader, who I am as a mother, who I am as an entrepreneur, and really dig deep and say, well, how do I want to show up? Is this serving me or is it not serving me? Because sometimes we're serving everybody else and we're walking around empty, you
Right.
know, so not wanting to do that anymore. For me, to follow me, it's Tamika, Tammica, Jones Motley on Facebook. That's where I do a lot of, talking about what I'm doing in the community, activism. My son was a corrections officer who died in the line of duty. So we're fighting in legislation right now, getting a lot of bills passed. Because there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes
Mm-hmm.
in corrections that we're not. And I was going to send you a video, Neshama. I'm going to send it to you. Um, there's a lot of mental health that is not being addressed in prison.
Mm.
There was a video that I was just sent, a woman who was fighting for justice for her son. He was autistic, and they locked him in a cell, and he was, raging. He wanted to get out. He don't like to be
Yeah.
confined, and so bumped his head, hitting his head against the wall. And they're like, "Calm down, calm down." There's a lot of mental health that needs to be addressed, a lot of training that needs to happen,
That part.
how to identify someone has a mental health crisis. So those are some of the things that, I'm pushing for, that we can address, because not everybody that's in prison, are just, bad actors. Some of it is mental health, and they need to address that as well. So that's a lot of the legislation that we are working on, be able to identify so that people can get real help.
That's so important. Thank you for that. Thank you for
Very
the work that
important.
you do. That is so
Yes.
important. And you
Thank
know
you
that's
for
near and
sharing.
dear to my heart.
I was gonna see, and it touched me so. I was like, I better not send this to her. But this is what people are dealing with, because they don't teach enough about mental health. We seeing it in, just HPD. They're not able to identify or know how to calm someone down if they're having a mental health crisis.
Yeah, because the first thing always to do is just, lock them away. I remember the first time I saw somebody having a mental health crisis as a child, and it was like a random man walking through the neighborhood doing what he does, but he needed help.
Mm-hmm.
Why y'all sending the police out there?
Right.
There's
Right.
not a medical team. Where's the ambulance? Like, it's
Right.
not a police thing. This is a medical thing. I don't know. So that's a whole nother discussion for
Yeah.
another day. But y'all follow Tamika Jones Motley on Facebook to get her perspectives and see some of the work that she's doing in activism. We did have a question come in, but I'm gonna go ahead and let you talk about your final perspectives, Kelly, and some of the things that you're doing, and then we'll take a stab at this last question before we let everybody go. Because I know I told everybody I was gonna hold y'all about 40-45 minutes. So I thank y'all for even, giving of that time.
Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity. This is an important conversation, right? We hear talk about confidence, we hear talk about leadership, but confidence and leadership go together.
Yeah,
And a lot of times, we miss the mark because we don't really know what leadership is and we don't really know what confidence is. So
yeah,
one thing that I started sharing with myself and with everyone is to show up, be intentional, and expect great things. I started saying that to myself all the time when I was in a really dark place, when I wanted to hide myself, when I didn't even know who I was or what I should be doing. Right. So showing up for me meant being authentic, and it doesn't matter what other people think. And just even if some days showing up means getting out the bed, waking up, taking a shower, and getting back in the bed, it's okay, because you have to give yourself some grace in those moments, but also pushing yourself past that, right? Doing the things that are scary, the things that don't make sense to other people and maybe not even to you, right? So that's the show up piece. And then the being intentional. I'm me on purpose now. Sometimes I laugh at myself after I show myself in different ways. Even to my family, they're like, "What is going on with her?" I'm being intentional because that's freedom for me. Because
Mm.
I was bound and just locked up in this wall, this circle for so long, right? And so being intentional means taking that one step, even if it's one step or if it's 10 steps today. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna say something to somebody. I'm gonna say something to myself. I'm gonna remove some conversation from myself sometimes. And then so show up, be intentional, and expect great things. Know that when you're in alignment with leadership, and we really need to talk about leadership with women, because I
Mm.
don't know, we're getting it wrong. We're getting it wrong. Leadership is not trying to be in control of people.
Come
That's
on
not
now.
what it is.
yeah,
So just being intentional and expecting those great things, because I know when I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, the lessons, whether it's a lesson or whether it's something good that's happening, I know that it's supposed to happen right now for the next season that I'm in. So yeah, these conversations are so important, that we hear other women's perspective and other people's perspectives, so that when I think of uncork, I think of it just popping off and flying and stuff
yes.
spilling over, and you might even get wet, wet with it. And so I'm just thankful for this opportunity. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Kelly Duran Jones, and or Grace to Grow Beyond Fear. And our women's circle is called the Grace Sister Circle. So thank you so much for this opportunity. And I challenge everyone to continue to grow in confidence, whatever that looks like for you, because it looks different for all of us, and that's okay.
Definitely, it definitely does. Oh, I saw the question that came through. I think we talked about this earlier, though. How you show up and navigate mixed spaces where we have to show up, and I think we addressed that earlier on in the conversation where we talked about where race and gender both have played a factor
Mhm.
in how we show up and how we navigate that.
Yes.
So, well, thank you, ladies, so much. And thank you, everybody in the audience. Thank you for your interaction. Thank you for your good questions and your commentary and for sharing your perspectives as well. We'll be doing this again. So, again, like I said, to stay abreast of everything we have going on, NeshamaAlheem.com/events. You'll get the next virtual Uncork, the next in person experience, and everything else that we have going on. So, thank y'all so much for being here, and y'all have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank
Love you. Thank you for
you.